Back here on this Saturday morning, Steve Cashel and Dr. Brian Cole. It is Sports Medicine Weekly. Our producer is Shane Reardon. Our coordinating producer is Teresa Ann Seeger. Our website is sportsmedicineweekly.com. Coming up here on The Score, after us, Inside the Clubhouse with Bruce Levine and David Schuster. Dr. Cole, I love this next topic right here. Boy, do you make the football helmet bigger? Can you make it smaller? Do you make it harder? How do we try to innovate? And is it possible to make it concussion-proof? We're talking about football helmets, the recent innovations and the future. What do you think?
Well, I still actually have my high school football helmet.
Do you really?
Yeah, I was going to turn it into a lamp.
Who made it? Wilson?
It was Redell.
Redell?
Yeah, it was. So I went to. I don't know if you go back. Where did you grow up?
Park Ridge?
Yeah, so you remember Deerfield High School used to have, we always had a good football team in the late 70s, 80s. You know?
And Paul Adams?
Paul Adams.
Yeah, he was your football coach.
Yeah, that's right. And so it was, we had 100 kids that would be out for a team. In fact, I still have my father's football helmet.
He
played at Arizona State and then for a couple of years.
Wow.
We were all guards. I mean, can you imagine? I was about 185, same height, basically 5'8", about 185 pounds. Used to bench, you can't prove it, used to bench about 345, 350.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you weighed that much, though, 185.
I was a total fire plug. And I was the same size in high school as I was in fourth grade. And just stopped going a little early. So, but it was great times. But, so I still have my helmets and my kids on his shelf. And it has these black little. We used to have these diamonds every time you sack someone. You get a little black electrical tape diamond on it. So it has all these
back of the helmet,
corroded pieces of black tape all over it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we didn't. Concussion then was you had to lose your memory. You know what I mean? Like you had to be out for anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
It was, and that was in high school. I remember getting my head banged a lot. And I can remember the feeling like yesterday. I'm sure, and I thought about this recently, I'm sure every one of those was a concussion. You know what I mean? But you say, I got my head, I got it. What do we just?
Maybe a quick blackout?
You just got a dinger or whatever. You just had we had these names for it, but we didn't take them seriously. Never blacked out. But you get hit hard, you have a headache, and then you go back and play, and you do it again. I mean, that was routine. The only time a kid ever came out is if he was laying on the field and maybe didn't remember something. Other than that, you always went back in. Do you remember that? And you played too.
Absolutely, I did.
Right? Wasn't it like that?
I played through 8th grade. And
yeah,
then
you get your bell rung. Right, you get your bell. What happened?
Yeah.
I got my bell rung. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Let me sit down for a minute. Okay, go back out again.
No,
that was
quite
pretty
often
routine.
We hit helmet on helmet.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that was when they took spearing away. When I was in high school was when, do you remember spearing, right?
Oh, Doug Plank was famous.
So that was
Chicago
when they changed
safety.
all the rules for, the youth football, going all the way back to third grade when we started playing. It was we used to call it Mighty Midget football.
Wow. Well, it's estimated that 5 to 10 hits in any NFL game are of concussion caliber. And let's bring on right now a gentleman who knows a lot about innovations in the future of football helmets and head protection and equipment technologies. Thad Ide is with us from Redell Sports, Senior Vice President of Research and Product Development. How you doing this morning, Thad?
I'm well, guys. How are you?
Thank you so much we're good. Appreciate you joining us because this is an interesting topic. I think we could do a whole hour show on this. But can you describe your role at Redell and how that factors into a bigger picture of on-field protection in football?
Well, yeah, I lead the research and product development team at Redell. We've got a talented mix of experienced engineers and kind of creative, innovative young talent. But we all think we've got pretty cool jobs because we get to get up every day and work on products that are designed to better and better protect young athletes.
What is it? Where's the main factory?
The main production facility
production
is just outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
And R&D is in Des Plaines?
R&D is in Des Plaines.
Is that is that your main R&D?
Yes. Okay.
And what is it like? Is it like one of those crash tests? I'd love to see your R&D facility. That'd be really interesting. Is it like one of those you have a helmet that sits on a impactor and sort of you get where they can basically just put it on different surfaces and mirror what happens with direct blow?
Yeah, you're welcome to come out and visit our labs anytime. But we have a number of different ways that we can test football helmets both at the material level, the subcomponent level, and then the full helmet level by using, different crash test dummies, different types of head forms, and introducing impacts to them in different ways. And we can measure different forces and different ways that the helmet acts and reacts, and how it can reduce the forces of impact to a player's head.
Is it so? How many years have you been there?
I've been at Redell for 18 years.
And are you engineering background?
I am. I'm an engineer, master's degree and bachelor's degree from Michigan State University.
How many engineers or tribologists or all the kinds of people that deal in the biomechanics of this do you guys have on staff?
Oh, our R&D team is about 15 strong. Engineers, technicians, product designers, all working their trades, trying to make football a safer game.
I mean, is this, like, when you think about it, is the helmet been the primary focus, from an industry point of view in terms of what people, pay attention to? Like when, I don't even know, concussion right now is just part of our vernacular, and it's hard to remember when the transition was, when it became part of our vernacular, But let's just say over the last 10 years, I have to imagine that, you guys have been in, the driver's seat for innovation, and I'd be really curious, has that been the primary focus from NFL at large, for example, and not just NFL, anyone who uses a helmet. It's much broader than the NFL. And also, and I have to imagine you guys are the market, I would think you're the market leader. If you ask anyone out there who's, what helmet do you know of, most of them are going to say Redell, I would imagine. And then what's been the major innovations you've had over the last 10 years? Like, what's the biggest change that we've seen that's currently being used for football?
Oh, I think Redell's by far the market leader. And I think in the last 10 years, you hit it on the head. I think awareness of concussion and taking it seriously as a serious injury has certainly gained a place in the public consciousness, and I think that's a good thing, because I think it it makes the game safer when you have that level of awareness, and you're taking better medical care of athletes, and they know that it's an injury that needs to be taken seriously.
Visiting with Thad Ide. Thad is the Senior Vice President of Research and Product Development for Redell Sports. We're talking about football helmets. So, Thad, can a football helmet, be made that saves the brain from concussions?
Well, I think football helmets certainly offer, a level of protection against concussions. There's no such thing as a concussion-proof football helmet, but in the last 10 years even, you've seen significant leaps forward in technology in football helmets. Redell's introduced, widely commercially available impact sensors. Our Insight impact sensing system that's available in our football helmets. We introduced a technology just last year called Precision Fit, where we scan the surface of players' heads and create pad sets for the inside of their helmet that are made to match the surface of their head. And that's been a terrific product. It's called Precision Fit, and elite athletes have been gobbling it up.
Let me ask you a question. What's currently being used on a monitoring or surveillance point of view to collect data? What's actually out there at either in the college setting or the NFL setting? What's being used?
Well, there's a couple of different Redell technologies that are out there. One is called the Sideline Response System, and that's been used. Redell invested in that 15 years ago, and it's been used at major research universities like the University of North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Dartmouth. It's currently being used in a big study that's being managed by Medical College of Wisconsin that includes University of Wisconsin and UCLA and a number of other big universities to monitor on-field head impact exposure and conduct research into how that might have long-term health consequences or not in athletes.
So what's the data? What does it actually collect? A certain threshold of energy. What does it collect? Who reviews it, and who sort of manages the information going forward and makes decisions based on it?
Well, those particular systems collect all of the impact data for every head impact on the field. Okay. And it, in minute detail, they collect the force, where on the helmet was struck, the direction from which the blow came. It can compute different metrics, rotational metrics, linear metrics, and the researchers can then dig into that and see, specific types of head impact exposure profiles that happen on the field. Now, that sort of data has been used to change the game over the last 10 years in ways I think a lot of people don't even realize. Rules changes have been generated based on it. The whole Virginia Tech star rating system of football helmets is based on it, and that's certainly influenced the way people purchase football helmets. And, because it's our data, we mine it and use it to better design protective football helmets and protective features in football helmets.
Visiting with Thad Ide from Redell Sports, talking about the football helmet. I'm Steve Cashel with Dr. Brian Coe. You're listening to Sports Medicine Weekly here on 670 The Score. Back to the basics, Thad. What material are football helmets made of?
Football helmets are made of a combination of materials that make up the protective system. There's polymer resins of different types. The outer shell of Redell helmets is made from a type of polycarbonate that is the same material that bulletproof glass is made out of. And then we use other highly engineered resins, some foams and cell structures inside the helmet that are designed to absorb the forces of impact and not let them get to your head.
Thad, we've seen my two boys, the older one stopped playing football. The younger one still plays, 14 and 11, so my 11-year-old's still playing. I've seen on some kids that we've played against putting foam rubber on the outside of a football helmet. Is that a new innovation? Is that something you guys are working on at all?
It's not something that we're working on. I mean, we've tested those devices and found them to have little or no value.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Intuitively, I just would think that doesn't work.
Yeah, believe if it was something that we thought added protective value to the football helmet, we'd be doing it tomorrow.
Okay. Brian Nicole, isn't it interesting that the first football helmets were thin, hard leather?
Yep.
And then
no face mask.
Yeah, then plastic padding and face masks were added. I mean,
right. That's what my dad had. He was when he played at Arizona. He's early 80s. That's what he played with. The
way the football's going, I know Redell's doing a great job. It's great to have Thad on, but I wonder with the way that the NFL is trying to protect the concussion situation, do you think it might ever go back to that, where they eliminate face masks? And, right now the kids are playing, they're eliminating football in junior high. Yeah. Our junior high just eliminated my son, who played in 8th grade. His team was the last team to play with pads, and now they're playing with these like leather football helmets, and they're playing
different sport.
It's a different sport, but now they're playing touch.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
9-on-9.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in his opinion on that. I mean, there's a lot of controversy. You look at injuries, for example. I mean, you get concussions in rugby, for example, right? But totally different gig.
Those people are crazy.
Lacrosse, I know. Well, you can't hurt those guys.
Pads.
You can't hurt those guys. Lacrosse, same thing. So you got to wonder what how the technology itself weighs into the whole equation. But we at the Sports Summit, we had a couple guys weighing in on this. And it was interesting because you could build an argument that you've got this high energy, high force. It's a explosive collision sport, right? So does the equipment actually add to the risk? I mean, how do you answer that? Well, maybe this is just the last question because we're running short on time. But how do you answer that question? Is it just a necessary evil, and then you got to sort of play catch up and fill the gap because you have another problem because you've solved for another problem, if you will?
Well, yeah, I've been posed this question before, and I will weigh in on it. I always like to point out that yes, players used to wear leather helmets or no helmets, or there was a time before the 1970s when there weren't standards for football helmets, and back in those days, a lot of people used to die playing football. So that's why there were rules changes, and there's better equipment now. So now we've solved that issue. So we're on to the next layer now. So I think the equipment will continue to get better and better. But you definitely need to have good equipment to play the game.
Yeah.
Thad, do helmets have a shelf life?
They do. The Redell's shelf life has long been 10 seasons, and you retire them. The industry just recently caught up to us a few years ago and will no longer recertify helmets that are 10 years old or older. So that's how long they last. Oftentimes a helmet that gets used vigorously won't, of course, last that long. But, there's new technologies that are coming at us so fast now that, I think it's pretty rare that somebody even keeps a helmet around for that long.
Final question, Thad. We appreciate Thad Ide coming on with us from Redell. Let's have a takeaway for the football parents out there. Best way to fit your son or even daughter for a football helmet, and is there a reconditioning situation where you could recondition a Redell helmet?
Oh, absolutely. The best way to fit your helmet is to have somebody who's experienced with football helmet fitting, like a trained coach or equipment manager, or even your local Redell representative. I mean, we often come and attend, first days of practice when equipment's issued and help fit products. So, I think those are reasons to give you confidence in how well your helmet is fit. And as far as reconditioning goes and recertification goes, absolutely all Redell helmets can be reconditioned and recertified. We recommend it be done every single year because once a helmet's been issued and once it's been on the field, you never know what exactly has happened to it. So you want it back in the hands of somebody who knows what they're looking at to get it cleaned and sanitized, inspected, repaired, and importantly, recertified to the protective standards that it's supposed to meet.
RedellSports.com is the website. Thad Ide joining us from Redell Sports, Senior VP of Research and Product Development. Thanks, Thad, so much for joining us on Sports Medicine Weekly.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. When we come back, one of our favorite guests, Karen Malkin, our psychology of eating coach, is going to talk about nutritional strategies on getting through the holiday season without gaining weight. She's always fun to talk to. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Medicine Weekly
on 670 The Score.